What's up, beautiful people? My name is Brian, and today I'm here to tell you about the one thing that allowed me to finally become fluent in French after 2.5 years of learning it. And that thing is complete and total immersion. Now, in order for me to illustrate this, let me use my own French learning journey as an example. So, I had pretty much zero exposure to French for the first 20 years of my life. But then, during my sophomore year of college, when COVID hit, and everyone was stuck at home, I was bored, so I decided to make French my minor. And I started taking French classes from my college. And I did that for about 3 semesters, up until the first semester of my junior year. And although I did learn how to conjugate verbs, about gendered nouns, how to say some basic sentences in French, it didn't really teach me how to actually speak French. The fact that these classes were all online because of the lockdowns didn't really help me either. And so I decided to study abroad in France as an exchange student for a semester. And I ended up in this beautiful little city called Lyon. All of the exchange students in that university had to take one French class for every semester they were there. And we were split up into different classes based on our level in French. And I ended up getting put into the B1 level class. B1 standing for lower intermediate. We were only allowed to speak to the teacher in French, and we had about 2 sessions a week for a little less than 4 months. For most of those sessions, we focused on completing French grammar exercises with the teacher. By the end of my study abroad semester, although this class did reinforce my understanding of the reflexive verb, the French subjunctive, and it did teach me as well how to phrase my French sentences differently and in more sophisticated ways, I didn't really make any significant progress when it comes to speaking French at a conversational level. Unfortunately, I didn't have many opportunities to make French friends during my exchange because all of my classes were only meant for exchange students like myself, and pretty much none of the other exchange students spoke French, and so that didn't help. So I went back to the United States feeling a bit disappointed, but during my study abroad semester, I actually learned of an opportunity that would allow me to move back to Lyon and study at that university as a full-time student. And I thought to myself, why not? So that's what I ended up doing. I actually made a video about that, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. And so I moved back to France, and this time I actually made some French friends, but after seeing how I was still unable to understand everything that they were saying in French, they all reverted back to speaking English when hanging out with me. And so, although having them around made me better when it comes to speaking French casually, I still struggled a lot if I had to manage a conversation in French. But fast forward 6 months, and I somehow got lucky enough to have the opportunity to work for a PR agency as an intern. They decided to hire me despite the fact that I could barely speak French, much less at a professional level. And so for me, this was like a now or never moment. Either this forces me to become fluent in French, or this shows me that I was never meant to have a life in France in the first place. And so I said yes to the offer. For the first 3 months of the internship, I just showed up to work, not saying anything to my coworkers other than bonjour. I use Google Translate and DeepL for everything. In the very beginning, it took me up to 20 minutes to write a simple email in French. And I went home every day with a massive headache because I was constantly getting overwhelmed with French words that I'd never heard before. Obviously, because I'd never spoken French in a professional environment. But I pushed through. And at about the 3-month mark, I think something snapped. And it was like all of the information that I was taking in those past 3 months suddenly came together and made sense in my brain. The neurons started connecting. So something snapped. And somehow I suddenly became comfortable speaking French, both at a conversational level and at a professional level, where I didn't have to think about what I was going to say before I said it, not having to translate from English to French every time I had to say something. that was when I felt like I had broken a plateau in my French learning journey. And I feel like once I broke through that plateau, getting better at French only became easier for me. It's like, the better you are at something, the easier it is to become even better at that thing. And so now I'm at a point where I don't feel insecure or uncomfortable at all, even when speaking French to strangers spontaneously on the street. And so that's how immersion helped me become fluent in French. And I'm not telling you to do what I did and move to France, because that's obviously unrealistic for a lot of people and it's not even an option. But there are still a lot of things you can do. Like, I personally know other Americans like myself that had never lived in France but speak better French than I do. And the alternative is to just make as much of your life in French as possible. That could be listening to French music, watching French movies, watching French series, listening to French radio, French podcasts, and just taking every opportunity to be with other French speakers. And so, yeah, you have to do way, way more than just doing Duolingo. I actually plan to interview these people and get them to share how they did it, so stay tuned for that. I hope my story brings you more clarity on what you need to do to become fluent in French as a French learner. I hope you got something useful out of this. And I also hope that my story showed you that even if you start learning French as an adult, like I did, becoming fluent in French is still very attainable. So don't give up. If you got something useful out of this video, I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. And please let me know what you think in the comments down below. And with all that said, I guess I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.